Well, hello there. Yes, indeed, it's that time again. Time for the blog that truly blazes and the start of a new year. Yay! So this is a new year blog, and today's date is January the 3rd, here on Sunday night. Had to wait a couple of days to get to this, but I wanted to make it special for you. I'm going to go over the energies of the end of last week's reading, what we're coming into now, and what lies ahead of us at the end of the week, as I always do. And also, I'm going to go into some astrological aspects, some interesting occurrences in the heavens over the next 3 months. I don't want to try to cover the whole year. It'd be a lengthy blog and more than you're going to really absorb or benefit from. So I want to keep it a little shorter term, but I think every 90 days I'm going to do a more extended blog where we go into some astrology and some of the other interesting things that may be affecting us. So do stay tuned. This is indeed a very interesting and enlightening ride. Yes, that's right. The first card is the last card of the previous week's reading, and this card was the Queen of Discs, or Pentacles. Now this gets attributed to Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign that emphasizes self-reliance, inner strength, financial domination, control of resources. This is the thing. Self-control, being careful, being conservative. The Queen of Pentacles is the queen of all that she surveys, as she's pictured here in the Thoth Tarot. So you may have felt that way the last few days. You may have felt more grounded. You may have been watching your pennies a bit, which is understandable. After the holiday season, that can get kind of dicey, all right? So it's important that we watch our money, but more importantly, it's important that we bring in this new year with the right attitude, and that we are certainly going to do as the week progresses. That's right. The card of the present, what we're coming into now, is the Seven of Pentacles, or Discs. Now this is not the happiest looking card. It's entitled Failure, and it looks kind of yucky in the picture, but here's what's going on. This is basically Saturn in Taurus. This is a feeling of weightiness. This is a feeling of heaviness. Now that's not going to last long, but it is going to be here. We're going to have some of that. Now why? The reason being is that we got a Mercury retrograde coming up January 5th. That's just a couple of days from now. Mercury will go retrograde, and whenever that happens, we always get a bump going in, and we get a bump going out. Not a big deal. It happens. Mercury retrogrades are characterized by some foggy thinking, perhaps. It's best not to make major decisions. Communication lines could get kind of clogged up. Things could get kind of dicey. So we want to be careful what we say, what we do, what we decide. This goes on for about 3 weeks. This retrograde is going to last until about the 25th of this month. And then Mercury will go direct. It's in Aquarius right now, in the sign of Aquarius. Here in a few days, it's going to go into Capricorn, and it will station direct in Capricorn towards the end of January. Now another thing too to look out for, this coming Tuesday, we're going to also have a situation where Mercury is going to be squaring Mars. This is the day of the retrograde on the 7th, I believe it's Tuesday morning. And what this means is that we need to really be doubly careful about what we say, how we handle social situations. You know, if we're going to say anything that might result in a confrontation, we want to be really careful with that, because a seemingly innocent remark might get taken the wrong way and really stir up a hornet's nest when it's not necessary to do that. So just be careful, my friends, with your social interactions, especially starting this Tuesday at the beginning of the retrograde. This is where some real serious misunderstandings could possibly arise. But as the week progresses, of course, when we settle into the retrograde energy, things do begin to balance out, so to speak. That's right. The card for the end of the week, what we're coming into, and this came up recently, by the way, is the Emperor. Aries. Cool. Domination, strength, courage, self-reliance, empowerment. That's what Aries is all about. Aries is strength and courage, empowerment, the ability to stand on our own 2 feet, and to truly be counted. Now it's interesting, the moon phases this week. We're going to have the moon in Scorpio for a good part of the week. And moon in Scorpio generally stirs up, again, a lot of emotions, going back to what's happening on Tuesday with Mercury square Mars, Mercury retrograde. And now we have this thing with the moon in Scorpio. This can mean some very turbulent feelings. This can mean some very turbulent things that go on inside of us, and they end up getting expressed out into the outer world. Then, towards the end of the week, we have the moon going into Sagittarius. That kind of coincides with the energy of the Emperor, that is strength, courage, and the ability to explore. Wanting to go into new emotional territory, new spiritual territory. These are aspects of moon in Sagittarius. And the moon, by the way, is very important in astrology. And I'm going to start emphasizing more of that because the moon is a mediator of all planetary energies. They're all filtered through the moon. That's how these planetary energies affect us here upon Earth. They're mediated by the waxing and waning of the moon, its different phases and different aspects. So this is very, very important to us. But know that as the week progresses, we're going to balance out with the retrograde. Things are really not going to be bad at all. The theme for the year, speaking of the Scorpio energy I mentioned, I went ahead and pulled a card. Okay, I went ahead and reshuffled completely and pulled one card that would summarize the year. And I didn't just go with the major arcana. Now, I could have done that. I could have said, okay, this is major. Let's go ahead and do the 22 cards, the major planetary, zodiacal, elemental forces. But I decided, no, let's do the whole deck. I got the Prince of Cups. Prince or King of Cups is Scorpio energy. And it's very deep, and it's very profound, it's very stirring. So this is a year where we're going to be exploring our emotional depths. We're going to probably be clearing up some things, cleansing, getting more in touch with ourselves, purifying ourselves so we are more true, more pure, more aligned with our purpose. Now, another thing that's coming up this week too, since I'm on this week, we have Jupiter in Virgo. Now Jupiter is already in Virgo, but it's going to go retrograde in Virgo, okay? Yeah, that's not so great. We're going to have 2 major planets, Mercury and Jupiter, going retrograde this week. And Jupiter is going to be retrograde until, looking at my notes here, okay, the 9th of May of 2016. Now, this doesn't have to be a terrible thing. It's not always the greatest thing for abundance. It's not always the greatest thing for the finances. It can kind of result in some challenges. But know this, that this still is going to be a good year, especially on the spiritual plane. On the spiritual level, a very powerful year that's going to really tend to get us on track to where we're trying to go. Now, towards the end of this week, at the end of this week actually, coming around next Saturday, we're going to have new moon in Capricorn. And the new moon in Capricorn now, that's going to stress inner strength, self-reliance, getting more in touch with our cores, a greater sense of our resources, what we want to do with them, how we want to handle them for the future. So we have some fairly intense stuff that's coming up right here, even this week, okay? A lot of the stuff, the foundation for the year, a lot of the stuff is being laid with the week for the retrogrades, some of these square aspects, very, very powerful, very interesting. Now, the other events, since we're going to do it for like 90 days, the other event that I just read about today that sounds really interesting is we're going to have a super moon, okay, a super full moon in Pisces, March the 8th. Now, we're not going to see this total eclipse. It is a total eclipse of the moon. We are not going to witness this. This is going to be seen in the other half of the world, like China, Indonesia, maybe in Hawaii, maybe even some of the West Coast in California. They might see part of it, but the full effect of it is going to be on the other side of the world. But the interesting thing with this particular supermoon is that it's going to be opposing the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, which is a conjunction from the 1960s. Okay, it was a very powerful time, 1965, 1966. the proliferation of rock and roll, psychedelic drugs, new sexual morals, all this stuff. Well, this energy is going to tend to oppose that. So if you were born in 65 or 66, you may find your sense of life's course feeling altered somewhat or feeling a little bit skewered. It's going to, in other words, be a challenging time. Okay? This is also going to highlight the Jupiter-Saturn square, which is going on at that time, and that too is going to tend to make for a bit more tension. So these first 3 months, there's going to be some colorful things that are going to be happening. But again, they set the stage for spiritual growth. They empower us. They strengthen us. It's all going to be good. It'll all be okay. Well, there you go. The blog blazed. Long blog. You blazed with it. Listen, I appreciate you watching the blog that really blazes. Thank you for your continued support. Till I see you next week, many, many blessings.